today's session, we're going to focus on something called as context clues. Context clues, as the name itself suggests, it means clues from the context, right? Now, this is something that you will apply in question types like reading comprehension, especially around synonyms and antonym questions, vocabulary questions, right? We will apply context clues for question types like fill in the blanks, closed passage, even jumble sentences, right? Basically, anything that has a context which requires us to focus on surrounding sentences, right? Before and after the blank, or in the blank itself, in that sentence itself, there is some clue, right? So we're going to get familiar with how to use this concept, constantly. This is something that it should become a habit for you. I'm constantly using context clues because the context will always give you clues, right? I keep saying this. So the idea behind these concept sessions basically, guys, is to just put you on a, fast track. Like, that's where the differentiator is, right? Why do you get access to these sessions exclusively is only because we believe that these concepts will enable you to move at a faster pace, right? You have an advantage. Because I'm familiar with these concepts, some of them might be familiar, but they may not have had enough practice to apply them, right? And we constantly, it's there. I've covered context clues in the vocabulary section, but it's just lying there as a video. Of course, you can go back and look at it later, but we need to practice that constantly. We need to exercise that concept, right? That's what we're doing this session. So let's get to it. Okay, so first thing, context clues, right? We're going to look at question types. Let me just project it. Okay, what I've basically taken this context is from a reading comprehension passage. Obviously, we're going to only focus on the vocabulary based questions, right? Because a word is highlighted in the context, I need to figure out either the synonym or the antonym. So we're going to apply context clues. So what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to be this detective, right, with a magnifying glass, hunting for those clue words in the context. That's what I want you to do. So you're a detective right now. We're going to look at the context and you're going to hunt those clue words for me. Let's look at the first context that we have. Okay, the Indian power sector, being one of the prime sources of emissions, is presently going through a major transformation to ensure their reduction. And the highlighted word is obviously emissions. We need to find the synonym of this word from the given options. And the options are contingency, diffusion, proportion, disruption, and unison. Now, the problem sometimes is we might be familiar with the highlighted word in the context, but we don't know the meanings of the options. That can be a challenge as well, right? So that is a secondary challenge. The primary challenge is you not understanding the highlighted word, and that's where you apply the context clues. But the secondary challenge is also that, you have no idea about the meanings of the options. So let's address both. So can you guess what is the context clue in this context? Emission is our word. What can be the clue from the context helping me? Let's understand the clue first, then we'll move to the secondary problem, which is the options. Okay, if you're asking me, hey Sylvia, I have an issue, I don't know what to do to identify the clue word in the context. Ask questions, right? That's the only way you can identify the clue word. So let's go back to the context. Let's ask a question. So the Indian power sector being one of the prime sources of emissions. So something is being emitted, right? What is being referred to as emission? What is the source? What is being emitted? I'm asking the question. What are they referring to as the emission? We are trying to figure out the meaning of emission. Okay? So, ask a question around emission, with emission in the question, right? What are they referring to? What is being emitted? Give me the answer. That's your clue word. Yes, power. Very good. That's the clue word. Okay? The Indian power sector. Power is our clue word. Okay? Now we have an idea. Okay, what is being emitted? Power. That's the subject. The Indian power sector, it's one of the prime sources of emissions, is presently going through a major, so there's a lot of change happening there. To do what? To ensure their reduction. So reduction is not our clue word. Our clue word is power. Now let's go back to the options. We need synonym of emission, right? Contingency. What's the meaning of contingency? Now another way, this again, unfortunately, my friends, we need to have a wide range of reading, right? We just need to be good readers. Why? Because even if I don't know the meaning of a word, I can apply collocations, right? What does this word usually get associated to? Have you heard of, can you tell me that word contingency? What word have you heard it associated with? Option A, contingency. What is the word that you have heard this word associated with? A contingency what? Think, maybe you're not able to recollect right now. Contingency plan. Have you heard this? A contingency plan. Or if I use it in context, if I say we are prepared for all contingencies, means what? What does this mean? In this context, I've given you an example, right? We are prepared for all contingencies means what? Basically, a contingency plan means a possible plan, a likely plan to happen, right? A possibility. So here, when I'm saying we are all prepared for all contingencies, which means what? We don't know. To an extent, I can say uncertainty, right? Because we don't know. It's like a chance happening. So anything might happen, but we are prepared. We are prepared for all contingencies. Matlab, circumstances, yeah, we prepared for all sorts of, we don't know what the outcome is going to be, like, a chance happening. Anything can happen, but we are prepared for it, right? So in this context, it means, again, we have to keep constantly reminding ourselves that one word has different meanings in different contexts, okay? A chance happening, right? So now we have an idea. So is the context talking about a chance happening or a possibility? Sources of chance happening possibility? No, absolutely not, right? I can eliminate option A. Diffusion. To diffuse something means what? Again, apply collocations. What can I associate this word with? Let me give you a context. If I say the diffusion of new technology around the world. In this context, what is the meaning of diffusion? Again, apply context clues. What can the meaning of the word diffusion be in the example sentence that I've given you? There are diffusers for room freshener in the market. Okay. So when you say diffuser, room freshener is there. What do you do with the room freshener? So the diffuser is probably an equipment that is used to movement. Diffusers for room fresheners. Now, what do we do with the room freshener? What do we do in the room? I'm giving you the action. Spread. No. Oh, okay. You're giving me the answer of the diffusion of new technology. Okay. The spread, okay, I'll take that word. But there are diffusers. What do you do with the room freshener? Something is there in the liquid bottle? Huh? The liquid is there. What do? You spread the smell. I'm not getting the word. Your word is there in the context. To give out. What is the meaning to give out? To emit. Right? A diffuser is an equipment that is used to diffuse or emit the liquid, the freshener, and that smell spreads the room, right? Spread is a secondary word in that context, right? What is the diffuser doing? What is the main function of the diffuser? To emit the spray in the liquid so that the room will become fresh. It diffuses the liquid in the bottle to freshen the room. Okay, are you getting it? So, I can safely say diffusion in this context nothing but dispersion. Dispersion. And yes, spread is a secondary meaning, right? Because new technology is dispersed around the world, it spreads. That's a, what do I say? Secondary action of the primary action. The primary action is, it is first getting dispersed. It is first getting emitted. It is first getting diffused. So, our answer option, we are leaning more towards option B. What is proportion? So if I say only a small proportion of the class is present here for this session, a percentage of people, right? Proportion can also mean, let's say you're making some salad, you're cooking, right? So are the proportions, should the proportion of tomato be equal to the proportion of, let's say, cabbage in the salad, right? Same, equal. Something that is a part or an amount. Okay, so proportion is not our word again. We can quickly, safely eliminate it. Disruption again is not our word, right? The Indian power sector being one of the prime sources of disruption, no, doesn't make sense, right? Disruption is disorder, throwing in confusion. It's an unrelated word here. We can quickly eliminate this option, right? And unison again is an unrelated word here, right? Something coming together, right? If all of you wished me at the same time, Happy Women's Day, you're all in unison. So again, unrelated word, we don't need that word. Our answer is diffusion. But here again, what I'm trying to say is, it can be challenging if you don't know the meanings of the options. That's what I'm trying to get at again. But our first step is to identify the clue. Why is this important? So that we don't deviate from what can be the absolutely correct answer. Sometimes if you get the clue wrong, you might not understand the context. So what's the best way to identify the clue word? Use the highlighted word and ask a question with the highlighted word. What is the emission all about? What are we talking about in the context? Power, right? Power is diffused. Power is not proportioned. Again, you can use the clue word. Power cannot be contingency. Power cannot be in proportion. Power cannot be disrupted. Power cannot be in unison. Power can be diffused, right? So that's the right word. So use the clue word to see how you can associate a logical connect to the option. But there again, I feel that most of you are having a challenge with not knowing the meanings of the options. That can be a big problem. But let's look at some more context. But you have an idea, right? The idea is to use this session to get into a habit of quickly identifying the right clue word. And if you do that, you can be positively sure that you will not get the wrong answer. Okay? Just stick with me. We'll do a couple of more. You'll understand what I'm saying. Let's move to the next question. With India's commitment to climate change mitigation and growth in renewable energy sources in the next decade, the energy mix is likely to significantly alter. Our highlighted word is mitigation. Again, we need a synonym. Okay? Now, before we attack the options, can you identify the clue word in the context? So I just gave you a tip, right? How do I identify the clue word? I ask a question with the highlighted word. The highlighted word is mitigation. Very simple. Give me the clue word. See, understand mitigation is in the noun form. Tion, right? Right? What mitigation? Climate change mitigation. So my clue word or clue phrase is climate change. That's what I'm looking at. Okay? Now, with respect to climate change, since I have arrived at this clue word, remember the previous one, we said power can be diffused. So, with climate change, I have to choose one of the options which will give me a logical connect. Okay? Now, let's look at our options. Option A, collaboration. Option B, connivance. Option C, alleviation. Option D, extraction. Option E, predicament. Our clue word is climate change. Now let's understand the meanings of the options. To collaborate means what? To work together. Climate change, can climate change be collaborated? Does that make logical sense? You tell me. I'm just going to give you, I'm going to throw you hint words and sentences. You're going to come back and tell me which is the option that I can logically connect to climate change. Connivance. What's the meaning of connivance? I'm sure you don't know that word. let me give you a context. If I say some crime, the crime had been carried out with police connivance. Okay. So everybody came back and said, hey boss, we can't collaborate climate change. Yes, doesn't make logical sense. No, I will eliminate option A. Option B, I'm giving you the meaning of this word. Tell me the meaning of this word from the context I've given you. The crime had been carried out with police connivance. What do you think it can mean? The crime had been carried out with police connivance. Here again, if you apply context clues, the clue word is, can you tell me the clue word in this example sentence? What is the clue word from this context? What's the clue word in this context? The crime had been carried out with police connivance. What's the clue word? With. Together. Which means some sort of a support or assistance. So the crime, in fact, the police helped them with the crime. Right? That's what the context means. So connivance means what? What is the meaning of connivance? Assistance. Support, but passively, right? Not very openly, not like the police is like, okay, that crime I'll help you. Nobody knows that the police helped, but it happened. Passive support, passive willingness, passive assistance, right? So connivance means passive assistance. Can climate change be passively assisted? It cannot. Doesn't make sense. Illogical. Alleviation. What's the meaning of alleviation? See, you can assist a person. We're talking about climate change. No, I think you just got slightly confused. Yeah? You can assist a person, no? You can't assist climate change, can you? Doesn't make sense. Illogical. Alleviation. What's alleviation? Let me give you a context. Let's say alleviate unemployment. What can it mean? Alleviate unemployment means what? Give me the meaning of alleviate in that. Alleviate unemployment. मतलब क्या है? Alleviate unemployment means remove, reduce. Yes, good. So we have the meaning, right? Alleviation means some sort of a reduction, to lessen something, right? To kind of basically keep it moderate, right? It cannot be too high. I'll have to somehow either reduce it or maintain it, and I cannot let the unemployment rate go high, right? Having said that, we'll keep that in the parking lot. Let's just finish off all the meanings first, okay? So now, can climate change, can there be some sort of a reduction in it? Can it lessen? See, I can have harsh, severe climatic conditions. But at the same time, I can also there can be a reduction in I gave you the answer. There can be a reduction in the climate change. There can be, the climate change can be less severe, right? I can have a less severe weather. It's not bloody hot. It's okay. It's a warm, sunny morning. It's not harsh. It's less severe, right? So I can relate alleviation to climate change logically, right? There can be a reduction. The climate change can come down. It can reduce. So yes, there is a logical connect with respect to alleviation and climate change. Now go back to extraction. Tooth extraction. That's one meaning. What else are the meanings of extraction? Like if you want to extract oil, high temperature is used. That's another meaning of extraction. Can climate change be extracted? Illogical, it cannot be. Out. Predicament. What's a predicament? I'm in a predicament. This decision that they've made has put me in a predicament. What do I do now? What's the meaning of predicament? From the example sentence that I gave you. Some sort of an unpleasant, difficult situation, right? You have put me in a predicament, boss, by giving me this news. What do I do? Which side do I lean to? I don't know. right? So a predicament is a difficult situation. Dilemma, yes. Climate change be in a dilemma? Illogical. Out. Our answer is alleviation, right? Now the problem is, see, even though it looks complicated, this is how you kind of dissect the language, right? In terms of applying context clue, even if I don't know the meaning of the word mitigation, I am identifying the clue, context clue, climate change, and I'm seeing which one of the options can I logically connect to this context clue. Yeah. So in the context, the synonym for mitigation is alleviation, something that can be brought down, something that is less severe, something that is less intense. Yeah. So this is one way. It's a good strategy for you to know. But you will only be able to become fast in quickly identifying the clue word, figuring out, what can I logically connect this clue word with the given options. All that will come with practice, right? I'm sure you've never approached a question in this manner. Have you? I'm sure this is your first time you are doing something like this. Identifying the clue word, seeing if there is a logical connect of the clue word with the given options. It's a new approach for you, I'm positive, right? But what I'm trying to say is, this is a useful approach. Extremely high chances of you arriving at the right answer. And this is a good approach to know. But this approach you will be able to master only when you practice. Continuous practice, where it becomes a habit for you. Like, it will only take seconds for you to identify the context clue. It will only take seconds for you to connect it with the given options, logical connect, form logical connects, and then choose the right answer, right? But background, other homework that you need to do is expand your vocabulary, right? Because if you don't know the meaning of the words, and another strategy that I just told you, how do I figure out the meaning of these options? Collocations. What word does it usually get associated to? How do I know that? I just need to read. I just need to read. So I know, okay, I have come across this word associated with this word, right? So there's so much of work to be done. So this session is only introducing you to this approach, which means you need to go back and do a lot of homework. Yeah? Let's look at one more context. The next one is, so far we looked at synonyms, we're going to look at, this one's asking for an antonym. Antonym. What's our context? While these are noteworthy efforts, the per capita consumption of electricity in the country is still much less than the world average. Our highlighted word is noteworthy. Step 1, identify the clue word. Remember, we're looking for antonyms. This is a relatively easier question for you to identify the clue word. Let's see if you can identify that quickly. Efforts. You're going with what noteworthy? Noteworthy efforts. That can be a clue word, but we are looking for antonyms. See, for synonyms, that's a nice strategy to do. Asking questions, right? But for antonyms, what you need to look for are, the clue words are mostly these transition words, linking words. See, always remember, for antonym questions, there will always be two clauses in the sentence for antonym questions, if you notice, because there will be a transition word connect. I'm going to ask you two questions. I'm going to show the question again, okay, for you to get the right clue word. Antonyms, the sentence is divided, their sentence will always have two clauses. When I say two clauses, there will be two complete thoughts. That two complete thoughts will be connected with one word. That is the antonym clue word. So I want you to identify the antonym clue word first, and then in the secondary sentence, you will have a phrase supporting that antonym clue word. So two things I want from you. I'm going to show the question again. Now tell me, what is the antonym clue word? Antonym clue word. I'm going to make this easier for you. Clause 1. For you to identify the antonym clue word. These are noteworthy efforts. Clause 2. Remember I said each clause is a complete thought. The per capita consumption this entire sentence of electricity is still much less than the world average. What is the word that is connecting these two sentences? Still much less. Yes, correct. What is the clue word connecting these two sentences, guys? I have mentioned both the sentences. There's only one word left in the sentence. What is that word? The per capita consumption of electricity till the world average is 1. Why are you guys taking so long? What is the confusion? While. While is my antonym clue word. While. So these are noteworthy efforts. Okay. The per capita consumption of electricity in the country is still much less than the world average. Okay. But my antonym clue word is while. Which means while these are noteworthy efforts. While these are noteworthy efforts. This may be the case. So while is bringing in but. That's the meaning that while is bringing, right? While these are noteworthy efforts, what's happening? The per capita consumption of electricity in the country is still much less. So still much less is giving me what meaning? A negative meaning, right? The per capita consumption of electricity is still much less than the world average. So this is giving me a negative meaning. So which means noteworthy will be a positive word. If this is a positive word, I am looking at an antonym, which means I again need a negative word, right? If noteworthy is a positive word, because I need an antonym, my answer should also be negative. Okay? Now I have an idea. But in my options, let's look at our options now. Enormous, pronged, unveiled, insignificant, adverse. Okay. Now enormous means huge. Like it's like a in-between word, right? I don't know if it's positive or negative because it can be both depending on the context. So it's an unrelated word here. I can actually kind of keep it in the parking lot or even eliminate it because it's very vague. Pronged. What's the meaning of pronged? You see a fork, right? How a fork is. So anything like an instrument which has like a piercing thing, right? That's a pronged. A pronged instrument means like a two-pronged fork. Again, an unrelated word. I can safely eliminate option B. So an unveiled. To unveil something means what? To reveal. Unrelated word again. Right? To reveal something, to unveil something, unrelated word. So, which means I have to choose between D and E. Insignificant and adverse. Yes, Reshmi. So, between insignificant and adverse, and another clue obviously is the efforts itself, right? We're saying these are noteworthy efforts. These are. So, what can be the meaning of noteworthy? What can be the meaning of noteworthy? These are. So, what can be the meaning of noteworthy? Efforts is a positive word, right? Noteworthy means supporting that positive word. What can it be? Give me an adjective. What efforts? Think of other words that get associated with efforts. Important efforts, significant efforts, good efforts. Yes, right? So which means noteworthy means something that is significant. Something that is, yes, that's it. What's my antonym? Option D, insignificant. Now, this is just for us to know the approach, but noteworthy actually is not a very difficult word. If you didn't know that, then I'm very worried because it's not a complex or a difficult word. But just for you to understand the approach of context clues, I went about in this manner. Okay. So, the idea is when it comes to antonyms, always remember Try and separate the sentences into two clauses. There will be one antonym clue word, hint word. So which means that hint word will tell you to look for positive, negative meaning. And then based on what the question is, if it's asking you for a synonym, find the word that has the same meaning. If it's asking you for an antonym, find the word that has the opposite in meaning, right? And what did we do? If you look at these small steps that we applied in, in arriving at the answer, we dissected the sentence. We understood what the antonym clue word is. We also figured out what the clue phrase is. Then we went back to the highlighted word noteworthy. We looked at efforts itself, right? We substituted noteworthy with other words that can associate efforts, right? Noteworthy is an adjective describing the effort. So what other adjectives can I think of that will go with efforts? Now, shortcut method, an easy shortcut method, instead of doing all this, right? Instead of doing all this, easy shortcut method is what? Just look at efforts. Noteworthy is an adjective describing efforts. Think of what words you will usually associate with efforts, collocations, right? But for that you'll have to do a little bit of the history that we did, because I need to understand if it's a positive or a negative context, right? That's why we did that. The second part told us that it's a negative context, which means the first part has to be a positive context. Now I think of positive words that go with efforts, yeah, because I can also have minimal efforts, right? There are negative words also that get associated with efforts. So I need to do these steps before, yeah. So either ways I can't escape the steps. I thought I'll tell you a shortcut method, and then I realized there are negative words that also get associated with efforts. So we need a positive word, significant efforts, important efforts, efforts that worth our attention, whatever. So the opposite, we looking for an antonym, opposite is insignificant. Yeah. We'll do one more of an antonym. I want you to quickly identify either the clue phrase or the clue word. Okay, let's read. While India has rightly increased its efforts to reduce emissions, there is a need to increase its efforts to provide power for all through both, which is benign renewable production of electricity and thermal plants with reduction in emissions. The highlighted word that we have is benign. Okay. So here this is slightly complex sentence, right? Because if I look at my clauses, it's just two clauses, but my highlighted word is coming after the two clauses. It's almost like this is a complement, right? What's a complement? Something added to the sentence to make the meaning complete, right? This entire thing, benign renewable production of electricity and thermal plants with reduction emissions, is just additional information, explaining this both. So yeah, while might be my antonym hint word, but it's really not helping me with the highlighted word here, right? Because India has rightly increased its efforts to reduce emissions, clause 1. There is a need to increase its efforts to provide power for all, clause 2. And while is there. So that's just standing out separately, which means I need to still identify a clue phrase. What do you think can be the clue phrase to figure out the meaning of this word benign? Think. Okay, let me put a question to you like this. This complement, benign renewable production of electricity and thermal plants with reduction emissions, you will connect it to clause 1 or clause 2. Clause 2 starts here. Where will you connect it to? Clause 1 or clause 2? Quickly. Let's go step by step. Let's figure this out together. Now in clause 2, can you identify a clue phrase which can help us figure out the meaning of this word benign? What can be the clue phrase? The clue phrase is need to increase its efforts. That's the clue phrase. Okay? Need to increase its efforts is the clue phrase. In fact, this entire thing I would say, need to increase its efforts to provide power. Okay? This is our clue phrase. For all through both, I have benign renewable production of electricity and thermal plants with reduction in emissions. Okay. So if I'm saying need to increase its efforts to provide power, it's a positive thing or a negative thing? There is a need to increase its efforts to provide power, right? This is our clue phrase. That's a positive thing or a negative thing? Come on, are you with me? Yeah, positive. Good. So which means if I'm trying to do something positive through both benign renewable production of electricity and thermal plants with reduction emissions, benign is a positive word or a negative word? I am going to do this through this, applying through both this one. So benign has to be a positive word. Great, right? So even though I don't know the meaning of benign, I have arrived at the fact that this is a positive word. I need a antonym of this. What are all the positive words in the options? Or rather, what is the most negative word in the option? Out of predictable, feasible, palpable, anti-gate and unfavorable, what is the most negative word in the option? Let me rephrase the question. What is the most negative word? Negative word. Feasible means yes, unfavorable. Hai na? This is the most negative word. E. Okay? I can, in fact, that is our answer. Unfavorable is our answer. We are saying benign. Benign basically means something that is favorable, something that will just work together. Yeah. It gives us some sort of a positive influence. That's the meaning of benign. And if you look at the options, if you go back and just to double check, okay, predictable means what? Like, you know that this is going to happen, right? It's an unrelated word again. Let's say, there's always a person who comes late to class. Let's call him Raj, right? We know that Raj's behavior is predictable. We know because that's the case. That's always the case, right? He's always late. I know something about it. So you're predicting. Even today's class, Raj is going to be late. Why? Because I know that of him. Yeah, unrelated word. Feasible. This is a feasible plan, boss. We can carry this out. Meaning feasible means it's possible. It's a positive word, right? It cannot be my option because benign is a positive word. I need an antonym. Out. Feasible is possible. Palpable. What's palpable? What can I say? Simran, her excuse was a palpable lie. Let's say she came late and I asked Simran, why are you late? She gave me some excuse. Immediately I knew that her excuse is a palpable lie. So just to put that in context, if I say Simran's excuse was a palpable lie, what do you think is the meaning of palpable here? If you have to substitute palpable in this context, what word will you use? Your own word. What will you say? Simran's excuse was a what lie? Sorry, let me project the example sentence. Just to apply a little bit of logic, it will be her excuse was an obvious lie. It's so obvious. It's so evident. Okay? It's an obvious lie. I should have actually asked you for collocations with lie. Obvious lie, evident lie. Okay? So, known, not really known. It's very obvious that she's lying. Okay? So, obvious renewable production, again an unrelated word, illogical word, out. Antiquated again is something antiquated is something old, unrelated. Yeah? So, if you look at it, if you look at the context, right? We identify the clue phrase. We figured out the connection that the highlighted word had with the clue phrase, right? The clue phrase is saying something positive. And I have another clue word, in fact, both, through both, right? It's a connect to that highlighted word, benign, which means benign has to be a positive word. I need a negative word. And if I look at my options, the most obvious negative word is unfavorable. I can pick that. But just to make sure I'm not picking the wrong answer, it is important for me to know the meaning of the other words. Right? See, predictable is not a difficult word. Feasible is not a difficult word. Antiquated is not a difficult word. The only word I am guessing that you may not have known is palpable. Okay, now you know. Obvious, evident. Another meaning of palpable is also tangible, right? Something that you can experience through the senses. It's like saying, in our Bollywood movies, they normally show, right, like the hero Not even in Bollywood. I think in Collywood it's more obvious. Like they'll show the hero getting angry. Like if you see Telugu movies and all, what's that guy's name? Mahesh Babu movies or I don't know, some hero, Tamil hero, whoever it is, okay, Vijay or whoever it is, right? When they get angry, you can see like they literally show the veins all jutting out in the body, right? Anger coming out of their body. It's like so palpable, you can touch the anger, in fact, right? So in that context, palpable means something that you can feel, something that you can touch, something that you can experience, tangible. Okay, so yes, palpable can have different meanings in different contexts, but now you will not forget palpable at all. You'll remember Simran's lie, obvious, evident. You'll remember the hero's anger expressed evidently, physically it will show, tangible. Okay, so a benign synonym. Oh yes, okay. Benign synonym is nothing but something that is favorable, something that is, let me put it down. So something that is favorable. For example, let me give you a context that will make more sense. So if I say Modi ji, Narendra Modi came up with a policy. The policy with benign consequences for the economy. So obviously he is trying to do something, right by the economy. So he came up with, so he is making sure that the consequences are favorable. So this policy is detailed or is explicit, stating that, boss, we are going to implement this policy and the consequences are obviously going to be beneficial, good for you, favorable for the economy, so don't worry, blah blah blah, right? So Modi ji came up with a policy with benign consequences for the economy, meaning favorable, beneficial. Okay, another word that usually benign gets associated with is also benign tumor. Have you heard that? Benign tumor means not harmful. It's just a benign tumor, they'll say. Let me put that down also. A benign tumor, which means not to worry. Let's say a benign tumor will not cause a disease, right? Not disease causing, not harmful, no danger to health. Okay, that's another meaning of benign. So it's good to know at least two prominent meanings of the words, because these are all collocations, in fact. Benign tumor, benign consequences, right? Favorable consequences. Benign tumor, no issues. It will not arise in a disease. It is not harmful. So, so far we've looked at just vocabulary, synonyms, antonyms from a reading comprehension context, right? How to apply context clues and arrive at the answer, whether it's synonym or antonym. The same context clues concept we can also apply obviously in fill in the blanks, best question type to apply, in fact, fill in the blanks and close passage, in fact, right? Let's quickly look at those two and then we're going to move on to transition words. Fill in the blanks. Let's read double blanks. After 2 rain deficit years, dash showers this year have brightened the dash of strong farm sector growth. So this is our context. Can you quickly identify clue words? Rain deficit is one clue phrase. Good. See, there's another clue word also. Rain deficit is a clue phrase. There's another clue word. What's that word? In the same clause 1. Clause 1. I want you to pay attention to the punctuations also. Yes. Very good. Brightened, which means the first context is talking about, boss, there was something negative that happened. Rain deficit. There were no rains at all. So after 2 years of no rain, something happened. Something positive happened. After is also a clue word. Yes, I agree. Right? So brightened, and then you have strong farm sector growth. In fact, almost every other word is like a clue word for us, which means after the negative period, something positive has happened. Henna. So in the first blank, I need obviously a positive word. Look at your options. What is a positive word from your options? What's a positive word from your options? Come on. Only blank one. Sparse. In fact, sparse, the spelling is wrong. It's S-P-A-R-S-E. Sparse, scanty, meagre, wanting, bountiful. What's a positive word? Yes, bountiful. That's my positive word. Right. That's the only possible word, in fact, because sparse, scanty and meagre all are negative words. In fact, they're all synonyms, which means what? What do they mean? Insufficient, right? Insufficiency. All of these words, sparse means scanty, same thing. Meagre, very little, hardly, not dense, right? And wanting is just an unrelated word. Wanting showers is so illogical. That's it. What's my answer? E. After 2 rain deficit years, after 2 years of having no rains, bountiful showers this year have, what are my positive words? Brightened, strong farm sector growth. So, bountiful showers this year have brightened the prospects of strong farm sector growth. That's it. My answer is option E and not C. Yeah? Are you with me? Easy one, right? Not very difficult at all. But my only problem is I think some of you did not know the meaning of sparse, scanty and meagre, which are not difficult words again. Following? Okay. Let's look at the next one. While the improving power supply situation is comforting, it may not dash into any dash for consumers. Obviously, there is an antonym hint word, while. So, the first context, so while is there, right? Remember, when there is while, there are always 2 distinct clauses. The distinct clauses, the improving power supply situation is comforting. This is clause 1. It may not dash into any dash for consumers is clause 2. So, while I understand that the clause 1 is positive in meaning, right? It may not. Already I have the second clause saying something negative. It may not do what? It may not dash into dash for consumers. So, now I want you to apply, even if you are confused between blank one, let's look at our options. Transcribe, translate, decipher, transform, decode. I'll have to choose the most logical response, right? It may not dash into any dash for consumers. What for consumers? Will it make sense to say release for consumers? What are we talking about? What is our subject? We are talking about power supply. Imagine you as a consumer, the power supply situation in your area is improving. So it's comforting. But that may not necessarily do what? Our subject is power supply. If my subject is power supply, what is the meaning of decipher? Decipher means to decode, right? If I say, hey, can you decipher this to me? Which means what? It's in some code language. Can you interpret the meaning of this code language to me? That is the meaning of decipher, right? How can power supply, how can we, context clue, remember? How can I logically connect power supply to decipher? What is there to decipher in power supply? Doesn't make sense. Out. Option C, out. Why? Why have you chosen option B? Why can't it be option A? Why? Because again, it's an illogical word, right? Transcribe. Have you heard? It's a job, right? Transcription. What is transcription? What is the meaning of transcription? You listen to some context, right? And you understand what it says. It can be some script, some language, right? So, are we looking at power supply transcribe? We're not looking at some sort of a, figuring out script. Illogical. Out. Option A. Another way to look at it is go from blank to, right? Mamta says, it is not providing any sort of, see, those solace. Solace means some sort of comfort. Same thing, because comforting is there, probably that's why Reshmi said, okay, let's go with solace. Blank 2, right word, but decipher is a wrong word for blank 1. But for option B, if you see, it is not giving any relief to the consumers. Even though the power supply situation in your area is improving, it really is not translating. That does not mean the consumers are happy. Oh, okay, now it's improving, no problem. No, they are still uncertain because they don't have a definite answer. It is only improving, but it has not reached the stage of their expectation, the power supply situation, right? And we can immediately eliminate option D and E. Why? It says remedy and cure. Imagine power supply curing something for the consumers, doesn't make sense. Power supply remedy for the remedy is some sort of a antidote, right? Doesn't make sense again. So D and E are completely illogical. Again, it says decode, which is the same as decipher. And we're not talking about power supply changing, transforming. This particular situation of the power supply improving does not translate into providing relief for the consumers. That's the logic. Option B, right? So identify hint word, figure out the meaning, look at the options, select the right logical options using our clue word, power supply. That's the subject. Power supply cannot be deciphered, decoded, transcribed or transformed. But that situation can be translated into not actually providing any relief for the consumers. That makes sense. Are you with me? Let's move to the next one. There are investors who move away from tried and dash territory and explore niche spaces to dash their portfolio. This is a pretty easy one only because of one clue word. In fact, it's a collocation. Let me see if you get this within 10 seconds. Come on, you can do this. You know this. Yes, that's the collocation, right? What's the collocation? Tried and tested. So when you say something is tried and tested, what do you mean by it? You've experimented with this thing earlier and it has proved successful, right? You can rely on this. So let's say you have guests at home, okay, and you want to make something new for them as a dish, right? So you call your mom and you ask her for suggestions and she says, forget all that, I know this dish, it's a super hit with anybody who comes home, you try this, it'll work out. I have tried and tested this dish, this recipe is pakka, perfect. You cook this, they will kiss your hands, okay? So tried and tested, we know, which means something that has already been done, which has proven a great success. So in the context, there are investors who move away from tried and tested territory and explore niche spaces to diversify their portfolio. So they want some sort of they're looking for change, right? They're looking for diversification. So the collocation is tried and tested. If you know this, you'll close your eyes and choose option C. You will not waste time, right? So tried is our obvious clue from the context. But you'll have to know that collocation. Otherwise, you'll end up picking some other wrong option. A tried and tested recipe. Something that you did in the past which has proven effective, right? Or you can rely on it without a doubt because it was a success. Thematic funds that invest in a sector dash higher risk as all the money is dash in a particular sector. Again, same as tried and tested, there is a clue phrase in the context where if I choose one particular option from the given options, it's a collocation. What is that option? No, what is that clue phrase? See guys, your subject is thematic funds. Remember that. So think of the verbs that you're using for that. We're not talking about a person. Most of your options, let me give you some example sentences. So you'll know how pretty popular this collocation is. I'm just going to give you random sentences, okay? That's our collocation. Carry a high risk, carry high risks, carry less risk or high risk or whatever. It carries a certain amount of risk. Thematic funds that invest in a sector carry higher risk as all the money is, second blank also, look at it. I mean, if you look at the options for second blank, right, it says concentrated, diffused, diluted, stuffed and crushed. None of the options will fit except for A, no? For blank 2, right? To diffuse something means to put out something. Dilute means like I'm making the milk more watery by diluting it with water. Stuffed, we're talking about money. Just doesn't make sense, right? Some of you it might, but crushed, money is crushed in a particular sector. Concentrated means what? Brought together there. It is there in that one place, right? The meaning here of concentrated is what? To bring together in one place. Yeah? Are you with me, guys? So, thematic funds that invest in a sector carry higher risk as all the money is there in that one particular sector. Not diffused, not diluted, not stuffed or crushed. The money is not stuffed. To stuff something means, have you seen the movie The Mask? I actually drank water and it fell on me. Have you seen the movie The Mask? Jim Carrey. When he robs the bank, he stuffs, when the detective comes knocking on the door, what does he do? He stuffs all the money in that room, right? In that adjacent, whatever, one side room, right? That is stuffing. That's not what they're talking about. The money is brought together in one place. It's not stuffed. It's not crushed, definitely. Okay? Answer is A. Thematic funds that invest in a sector carry high risk. Carry high risk. That's our collocation. That's the phrase. Right? This is a typical a verb plus noun collocation. Right? Make your bed. You make a bed. You make a decision. Right? You make a mistake. Different types of collocations. If you've not gone through that video, go through that video. It's in the vocabulary. There is a lot of difference between dash in an RD and dash a systematic investment in an equity fund. This is an easy one. What's the clue word from the context? You can even apply parallel construction in this. A little bit of grammar here. You'll arrive at the answer. Why am I saying parallel construction? Is simply because, yes, because of the synonym hint word, right? My clue word is obviously, and if you look at it, something in an RD, something, a systematic investment in an equity fund, right? If you look at the parallel construction, I am saying a systematic investment in an equity fund and something in an RD. What is that? What do you do? Recurring deposit. You invest only, no? Obviously. Logic. Investing in an RD and making a systematic investment in an equity fund. That's it. Not backing, not lending, not infusing, not providing. You can't provide in an RD. You can only invest in an RD. Right? This is an easy one. Not very difficult. So, clear? Are you clear? Do you have any questions? Do you have any doubts? Yes. Okay. So, good. That brings us to the end of the session. I would say through these questions, we have only looked at a sample of how to apply context clues, how to choose the most effective word, how to do, a step-by-step procedure of eliminating wrong answer options, how to quickly get into the habit of, looking for meaning because of antonym clue words or hint words, right? Now, this is just, the approach now, right? You need to make it a habit and practice to such an extent where you are reducing the amount of time that you're taking to arrive at the answer. That's what practice does, right? Practice makes you perfect. So, the more you practice, the more faster and the more quickly you can identify the answer option. So, please take time to practice. Right? That's all I have to say, and I will see you guys in the next session. Take care. Bye-bye.